We're so happy to have all of you joining us today as we're going to talk about University of Vermont's farmer training program. We have a lot to get through in what we think is probably a short half hour. So let's get to it and dive into the details this evening. I'll go through quick introductions. We're really going to dive into what is the farmer training program. You will hear from one of our alumni who's joining us actually from New Zealand, which is why I also said good morning. And we're going to talk about what is a week in life on Catamount Farm. So what are those logistics? We're going to get down to those course logistics, deadlines, cost, all the common questions that people have when considering this unbelievable 6-month program at the University of Vermont. So let's dive in. A few logistics for you. Please put any questions into the Q&A. Throughout the presentation, I will do my best to keep an eye on your questions and toss them over to our two presenters. We will have plenty of time at the end to answer your questions as well. We are recording this and we'll share the recording out to everyone who has RSVP'd with us today. Okay, so let's dive in. My name is Nicola Willie-Fenton. I work in our professional and continuing education department at the University of Vermont, and I will guide you through this discussion today. We're so happy to have Rachel with us. Rachel has been leading the farmer training program since 2015, and what a leader she is. I know we're going to hear probably from Rosie, our guest, who will introduce next, just about the amazing experience that the team has and the leadership and the educational experience through the farmer training program led by Rachel. So we'll hear a little bit more from her in a few minutes. And as I just teased, we have Rosie with us she's in New Zealand at the moment, visiting some family. And so we're so thankful that she's taking a few minutes out of her day to share her experience in the farmer training program. So we'll hear a little bit more about her background. And as you can see there, farming was not in her background. I think there was a passion there and an interest, but she transitioned from a previous career and a couple different focus areas into farming. And so we're really happy to have her here and hear about her experiences and what's next as well. So Rosie, we're going to hear from you in a minute. Okay, so let's dive in. What is the farmer training program from the University of Vermont? Rachel, I'm going to have you take this one away and guide us through what's the farmer training program at UVM.
Sure. So it's a full-time program. It's a 6-month program, and it's a very immersive program. The students are fully integrated in running UVM's Catamount Farm, which is a 8-acre veg operation, which is located in South Burlington. The practical side of the experience makes it, a unique program. There is also a classroom component to the program, and so students are toggling back and forth. But what's learned in the classroom very much connects out in the field, and the transfers are very much an embodied learning out in the field. Being within a university gives us access to many educators beyond the core farmer training staff. So we're looping in UVM professors, we're looping in extension agents, we're looping in farmers in the area, other ag professionals in the area. So that's a big piece of this experience, is the networking that's involved. It happens within the Burlington community, within the ag community within Vermont, and then among the students and staff. So it's both internal and external connections. And I'd say that's a pretty big piece of the experience. And then we have some partnership relationships, which I won't dive too deeply in, other than to say we work really closely with other farms in the area beyond UVM's farm, and that gives students a glimpse as to what does a farm that is making a living from farming, what does that look like? And it can look different ways depending on what avenue you take.
Super. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. That gives us a quick overview as to what is the farmer training program. And again, please ask any questions that you have throughout, and I'll keep an eye on those. But let's dive a little bit deeper. So, an overview of the program that you just provided, and we're going to get to a day in the life, as I mentioned, what happens kind of each day of the week on the farm. But keeping kind of higher level, Rachel, what are the things that students and graduates of the program are able to do? What skills do they really gain? And also maybe some of those directions that they sometimes can go in.
Sure. So it's definitely a combination of the technical. So you're getting, anything day to day that would need to happen on a farm to keep it running smoothly. I think part of the difference than say just, becoming part of a team on a farm is that there's a managerial component to it. Is that we want students to take ownership in the place while they're there. So there's opportunities for leadership and coordinatorship within the experience. And then we're also some of the classroom component feeding into that, those farm management pieces. The crop planning, the business planning, there's a series of farm financials classes, and also connections to community members who can assist students in creating a business plan. Not every student coming in is ready to start a business on the other side of this, but there's often interest in heading in that direction. So even just getting started on a business plan and learning what goes into creating a business plan. So it's one thing to know how to do a lot of this work, but then another question that comes up is, how do you make a living doing it? Or how do you turn this into a career? So that's a piece. And our food and social justice curriculum has evolved since 2017. And that, once again, there's a series of classes that connect to this aspect of the curriculum. And we realized somewhere in there, based on, conversations with students and staff back in 2017, that we needed to be addressing racism and classism within our food system in having all of these conversations of what does it mean to enter this line of work and what does it mean to enter food system work. So a lot of that curriculum dissects some of those pieces.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, keeping an eye on those questions if you have them, because I know Rachel is sharing a lot of information. So I'm super excited at the opportunity to hear from Rosie, because that's really where it gets great for the prospective students is, what was it like? What did you learn? What are the pieces that you're most excited about? What's the future hold? All these great things that we think about with alumni of our program. So Rosie, maybe just back us up a little bit. What drew you to this program, the program, the UVM Farmer Training Program?
Yeah, so I came to the program by way of burnout, honestly. So I was a healthcare worker. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor. I was living in Chicago. And as everyone knows, the pandemic, sometimes some folks slowed down, some folks sped up. I sped up and then eventually kind of reached my point where I needed to take a break. So I joined my local community garden and started my own little plot. And it was that 4x6 plot that just put me back together again. And so I followed that thread. I ended up applying to a few programs, but UVM was a cut above the rest. I was impressed and intrigued by how comprehensive the curriculum was. I admired the breadth and depth of training, lectures, involvement with other farms, like Rachel mentioned, so on and so forth. And then lastly, it bears mentioning that I also appreciated their social media presence. I felt like I could see parts of myself reflected back in what they posted and what they stood for and what they believed in and what they were about. So yeah, and then once I talked to Rachel in the interview, it was a done deal. I knew I was going.
We got you. That's great. That's awesome. I want to back up first. Rachel, stay with us for a sec. I want to back up and look at this slide for a second. What are the things that you feel like as you move forward and you explore this new career for you that you're taking with you? What are the pieces that you feel like you really have strong under your belt moving forward?
Oh man, so many things. Everything that you see on the slide, in addition to that, just how to work with people and on teams and with lots of different kinds of personalities, how to think on your feet, how to make decisions that you didn't think you were going to have to make that morning, right? Because weather changed or a pipe burst or the cooler's out. So a lot of critical thinking skills, a lot of people-centered work, skills like that. And also just how to keep a positive attitude when doing hard stuff, and to keep the reason that you're there at the forefront of your vision and have that carry you through. So those are some additional things in addition to everything you see here.
Awesome. Those are great. Thank you so much for sharing that too. We're going to come back to Rosie in a few minutes to hear more about what's next for her. But she's willing to answer your questions too. So please do put those questions in the chat box in the Q&A for Rosie as well. So let's turn back to Rachel for a minute. This question we get asked all the time: what am I going to be doing? What does Monday look like? What does Thursday look like? So walk us through the week in the life on the farm.
Sure. So I'll start by saying that Monday through Wednesday, the day starts at 8:30 and goes till 4. Thursdays can be a little different, but same length of a day. It's like 7 to 8 hours. Fridays, the day ends a little early. So still a start time of 8:30, but students break at 2:30. So you do have that afternoon. I think we're going to be getting into this in a little bit. Some of our students hold part-time jobs outside the program, and so that Friday afternoon can sometimes be key. But yeah, so everybody's on site Monday through Wednesday. We bring people together on Monday to get everybody grounded in a new week, and everybody walks the farm, and that can look different depending on what, in what state, what month of the program we're in. Sometimes it's with the group in its entirety in the beginning of the program. As the program moves on, you're doing that with a particular staff person. And then as we move forward, students start walking on their own. And it's really just to get the lay of the land, like what's going on at the farm, just trying to regroup and assess for the week ahead and prioritize. And we make some of those decisions as a group in its entirety, as we see all the things that need to happen. So we're tapping into students to help figure out, okay, where are our priorities within this? If we can't do everything, where are our priorities? But the students are in it in terms of just they're integral in making that farm run, from, seeding in the greenhouse to taking care of things along the way to the marketing end of things. And just to make sure that our bases are covered, students are split up into rotation groups. So you have a particular focus for a series of 4 weeks. So for example, there's a tractor rotation. And when you're on the tractor rotation, you're looking through that lens and figuring out the tractor work that needs to get completed on the farm in that given week. There's 2 harvest rotations, and then there's a planting and irrigation rotation. So we're together in the farm for those 3 days. Tuesday is a harvest day. It's also our farmers market day. So there's 2 rotations of students that are putting together a harvest list on a Monday and then coming in on a Tuesday to get everything harvested from the field, washed, packed to head out to our markets. Wednesdays are one of our CSA pack out days. So that's happening with that rotation. Wednesday is also this, doesn't say it on here, but Wednesday afternoons are one of our classroom component days. So after lunch on Wednesdays, that's when we're looping in, if it's not one of the core FTP instructors, that's when we're looping in some of our guest speakers to speak to our students. Thursdays look a little different. Some students stay at Catamount, and then 3/5 of our students are off-site working with our partnership farms. So that's where, depending on what farm you're working with, their day may have a different start and end time. But once again, we keep it to that same 7-hour time frame, but it might be that you're starting your day at 7 and ending a little earlier, or even 6 in the heart of the season, at one of our rotation farms. And then Fridays, once again, we regroup, we come back together. Sometimes we're headed out on field trips on a Friday. That happens once a month. We have assessments every other week, which is just a gauge to for both staff and individual students we don't call them quizzes, but essentially they're a quiz, but it's just covering more of the classroom component and the reading material that that students are being exposed to. And then Friday afternoon, there's another class period. So it's full, it's a packed week. And yeah, just as we were saying in the beginning, it's a mix of the out in the field, and there's a lot of like, while you're in the field, instruction there in addition to getting a thing done, and then pivoting and moving into classroom.
So much. And we know we always get the question, can I work can I hold down a full-time job as well? And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I think that was a great overview as to what those days look like, and the mix of the activities on those days. Thank you. So logistics, it's a 6-month commitment program, starts in May, ends in October. Rachel just shared a lot of examples of the hands-on and the classroom components as well, those rotations, and the different topics covered. And really one of the things that I think is really exciting about this program, which Rachel has mentioned several times, is that farm business side as well, is running the farm and hopefully being successful in that. So let's come to these questions. We just went over a typical week on the farm. And then I teased out, can I work, during the program? Rachel, share a little bit about that. You've mentioned it, and Rosie too, what did that look like for you, and how did you manage, finding housing and some of these pieces as well? I'd love to hear from you next. So Rachel, why don't you walk us through some of these?
Sure. This is a common question, the can I work in addition to attend the program? I highly encourage individuals, if at all possible, not to work more than 20 hours a week. It can be taxing to try to squeeze any more into your week than that. And sometimes like something's got to give, right? If the more that you're turned toward putting hours into a job, it's perhaps you're compromising on sleep, perhaps you're compromising on doing all the readings that maybe you would like to do. So it's just, you've got to weigh and balance that. But people do it all the time. They juggle a part-time job and attend the program. Students that are juggling that are often working evenings and weekends. And as I said, that Friday afternoon is a little, you end your day a little earlier. So there's often an opportunity to pick up a shift there. Many of our students are coming in with professional careers before the program, and Rosie can probably speak to this, is being able to, hold on to some of their clients or some of their, some piece of their previous profession that they're able to do a couple hours in the evening, or on the weekends. Should I stop there?
Yeah, Rosie, I'd love to hear from you. How did you manage some of that, and what were some of the experiences that you were seeing of some of your colleagues in your student cohort?
Yeah, it was a real mix. There were some folks that didn't work and just focused entirely on the program. There were folks that really kind of pushed the 20 hours, and they were amazing. They were rock stars, but you could see it really. It's tricky. And then I did some hours, but not a lot, and it was really helpful because I could be fully present with what was going on the farm. But of course, everyone has different situations.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate that feedback and some of that perspective. Let's tackle that next one too before we come back to Rachel. Housing. There's, housing shortage. Vermont is, we are not lacking in that area in terms of the shortage. We are really tight on housing. But tell me, Rosie, how you were able to find housing, and maybe just even what you also heard from your peers in the course as well.
Yeah, housing's tricky. So the sooner you can jump on that, the better. Rachel sent out a list of folks in the Burlington area who had been open to housing FTP students. I reached out to a couple who are also therapists, so I thought we'd have something in common. It ended up being a really great situation for everybody. And I was really grateful for that because Rachel had also suggested a price that was more manageable than the prices that you'll find in Burlington. And so I paid a much lower rate with these folks. Yeah, we also had a student live in his car for a little bit. He was a local and kind of like more of a rugged dude. So that works for him. If that works for you, that's great. Yeah, but I'd say get on it sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Good advice. So let's jump down to those last two, Rachel. Is there a typical student for this program? We were talking a little bit about this before we started, but how do you respond to that question?
Yeah, sure. It's a good one. I think one of the beautiful things about this program is that there isn't, and we attract, being a certificate program, we attract a range in ages. Our youngest student last year was 20. And our oldest student was 45. And then there's everything in between. It's not uncommon for us to get a couple folks in their 50s. We've even had folks in their 60s who are thinking in terms of a retirement career or retirement endeavor. I'd say the bulk of our students are mid to late 20s, early 30s. But as I said, there's a range. And folks are coming in from different previous career paths, also makes for a really fascinating conversation in the classroom because there's just, multiple lenses that people are coming at this work with. The common vein that I feel like I see is that individuals who are interested in this program are folks that are concerned with our food system to varying capacities, and they want to participate in this work, and they're trying to figure out where they fit in. And does that mean production farming? It might mean that, or this experience could be one that this practical component is informing them for other food system work that they might want to pursue. So I think that's the commonality is the concern and the concern for our current food system, and a desire to change and to be a part of that change. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I've seen that in many of the students that I've had the chance to talk to. You teased this just a second ago, some different paths that people can go on after the completion of the program. What are some different opportunities that you've seen people follow up with afterwards?
Yeah, this is also a common question, and it really depends on the person. It depends on what you're coming in with, and just what stage you're at within agriculture. Some individuals are ready to start businesses out the door, and they are developing a business plan as part of their experience in the program, and are taking that to inform them on the other side of things. Many individuals aren't ready for that, and so they might be looking for a management experience on a farm. They want to continue on the productive end of things, but are leaving with a level of confidence that they're ready to step up a notch. And then other individuals, they're realizing that they don't want to be doing the hands-on day in and day out, and might be looking for work doing more like advocacy work within ag advocacy within a nonprofit, or ag education within a nonprofit. Lots of ag education opportunities. And I feel like there's a lot of programs within educational institutions that are incorporating farms within their institutions. And then we definitely get policy wonks within our cohort who want to take that route and make change through that route. So it's varied. Yep. There's a page on our website that follows our alums over the years. So check that out if you have not already.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that. Oh, let's not jump there yet. I want to hear from Rosie. What's next for you, Rosie? And how did you find that opportunity?
Yeah, so actually, one of my friends from the program sent in our group chat a job that she had seen on Good Food Jobs. And she's from New York. I texted her. I said, what do you think, knowing this program, knowing me, knowing this area? She's like, oh, go for it. So I did. So I'll be heading to the Catskills, chasing flower dreams all the way from Chicago, to work at Crest Bell Growers. Production farming with flowers.
Right. You are living the dream. Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I'll keep you updated. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to. We'd love to
great.
follow along. That'd be amazing. So awesome. We wish you the absolute best of luck on this journey. So Rachel, I see a question just popped in. Is a vehicle necessary? Public transportation? Is a bike ride feasible? I would imagine it depends on where you can find the housing, but what are some thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. We have had individuals who come into the program without cars, and you'll want to take that into consideration. So as you look for housing, you'll definitely want to figure out how far that is from the farm, and keep that in mind. Burlington is a fairly bike-friendly town, and then anything that requires a car, there's absolutely just carpooling that, it'd be easy to loop an individual in any place that's, any field trip farm or rotation farm. That's, I feel like, a pretty easy logistic to figure out among the cohort and staff.
Great. So kind of going back to Rosie's point, if this is something you're going to do, you might want to figure out the housing ASAP and then figure out your proximity to the farm as well. So coming back, we're just about a couple of minutes away from wrapping up. So wanted to make sure that there's an opportunity for any additional questions. Hopefully we've answered most of your questions today from Rachel and from Rosie, but here's just a few more of those pieces, the cost as well. And again, that doesn't include housing and meals that we've talked about today. That housing is something that's really important to nail down here pretty soon. Timing in terms of the deposit and a final payment. So thinking about those, Rachel, for touching on that, but also backing up to, if I apply next week, how quickly, what's the next steps? How quickly would I hear, what is that admission process? So let's start there.
Yeah, admissions are rolling at this point. So once you submit your online application, which includes a resume and 2 letters of rec, we follow up with a phone interview, which I really like to paint as a conversation more than anything else. I feel like this is a two-way street in terms of figuring out if this is a good fit. So it's a back and forth in my mind. And if it seems in both directions like this is a good fit, at this point, I'm trying to let folks know within a week about acceptance so they can get moving on other logistics.
And then the first payment is usually due by March, deposit rate is due by March 1st, and then the final payment at the end of April. Is that right?
So yeah, to hold your spot, we ask for an $850 deposit. And then March 1st is where we need students to have paid 50% of the cost of tuition. And then April 1st is 100%.
Okay, great. Thank you. And oftentimes, and I know we have a question about scholarships, oftentimes people say, do you have any flexibility with that in terms of payments, and or are there any scholarships?
Sure. Yeah, we can work with you. So just say as much. And it is a process of working with the registrar, but we've worked those pieces out. If you're certain that this is what you want to do and you want to make it happen, and you just need some wiggle room, yeah, we just need to hear as much. Scholarships, we do have there's a couple options. Once again, this is linked on our website, so you'll find this info on our website. There are a couple organizations that that you can pursue. One is out in California, the CCOF. It's the certifying leg of organic certifying leg out in California. They offer a $5,000 scholarship for continuing ed students. We have done some internal fundraising for scholarships, which we're right in the middle of right now. So enrolled or accepted students are submitting applications for that, and we'll be reviewing those mid-month. And those are for partial scholarships. If you're a Vermont resident, there's more options through Vermont Student Assistance Corporation, VSAC. They have continuing, I forget what it's called at this point. Once again, it's on our website. But you can get a grant of up to almost $2,000 to help defer the cost of the program.
Great. Yeah, there's seems to be a lot of options, which is really awesome. This might be a tough one to answer, but we'll give it a shot. Austin asks, what's the general cost of meals throughout the 6 months?
I think that depends on the person, but I will say that our students eat well. When you work on a farm, you can't sell everything. There's seconds that might be slightly marred, but is still beautiful and delicious food. So maybe Rosie can chime in here, but I do, there's excess, and students take farm food home. So that helps to defer food costs for sure.
Yeah, I'd love, Rosie, what do you think? I know it depends, of course, it depends on the type of food you eat and everything, but what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it depends. I will say that we ate, especially in like the high time of the season, we ate farm food every day. And we would just, bring salad dressing or whatever, this and that sides, and just kind of like make family meals and eat. And then you're going to go home with a bunch of stuff. So that's huge, like in the beginning, you might only be eating asparagus. You might want some other stuff, but like, it's all good. You're going to eat well. You're going to eat really well.
That's awesome. I'm going to go make a salad as soon as we're done. Okay. So Abby asks, how much time outside of the class fieldwork is required for the reading and studying, Rachel?
Yeah, so I think some of that, once again, depends on the person. And Rosie, I might pick on you again to help me out with this. But yeah, there's readings that correspond with that week's classes. But this is unlike a traditional experience in that you're not getting tested on this material, right? Success is going to look different for different people. So if there's a week that you've got more going on or you're more tired, like maybe you are just skimming the readings and like getting as much as you can out of the class. So I think like on any given week, it's probably like, a few hours that you're investing in the readings.
Great. And I was just trying to type the question for Stephanie, but we'll answer it live instead. Stephanie is asking what's the age range? She said she jumped in late. So maybe just Rachel touch on that again.
Sure. Anywhere from 20 to 60, and the bulk probably mid to late 20s, early 30s, but definitely on either side of that range as well.
Great. There's a spot for you, Stephanie, if you want to join us. Regenerative farming. Yeah, I'm glad that you asked that as well. Just Rachel, how do we approach that in the education?
Yeah, sure. So the question is just rephrase it for me.
Sure.
Where does regenerative farming fit into this curriculum?
Yes, and organic or no-till, just, what are some of those different philosophies in the education?
Yep. So we dissect all of that. Yeah, there's ways in that I would describe Catamount Farm as having a regenerative approach to ag. It's not no-till, but there's a portion of the farm that is a low-till field. So I think really like a piece of the experience is dissecting that term and showing different models and different approaches, whether you're doing that by hand or whether you're doing that with a walk behind, BCS size implement or a tractor. So we're exposing the students to everything. And part of this experience is figuring out what resonates, what doesn't, like what fits for the approach that you want to take to ag.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for asking that question. And then our last question here is, what do you like to see in an applicant's letters of recommendation?
That's a good question. I mean, I think more than anything is a willingness and a drive, knowing that this is an immersive experience, knowing that it's hands-on, how does that fit in for you? We don't expect students to come in having had experience on a farm before. It's helpful just to contextualize what you're learning from day one. But if you don't have that, we get you up to speed as the weeks go by. So really, just a drive and an enthusiasm and a willingness to be a part of it all.
Great. Awesome. Rachel, thank you so much. Rosie, I just want to maybe come back and end with you as you're reflecting back on this experience that you just had. What are you most excited about? What are you taking with you from this experience?
I'm taking like a support network bigger than I could have imagined. I'm so excited to jump into farming soon once the winter's over. And I know that if I run into anything, I can call Rachel, I can call any one of the other teachers, I can call my farm mates. It's a community. They practice it, they make space for it, they believe in it. And that's, I think, the most important thing I'm taking away.
Very good. Well done, Rachel, and the whole crew. That sounds like an amazing outcome. That's great. Rosie, thank you so much. I do see, Stephanie, we did have kind of a lengthy question. You just popped in. Let's respond back. If you want to, Rachel, if you feel comfortable, maybe put your email address in, I don't know if Rachel, if you can see the Q&A and the chat, maybe throw your email address in there, Rachel, and I have no doubt, Stephanie, Rachel would love to talk to you about these questions in particular. And as we mentioned earlier, rolling admissions, but this program fills every year. So if it's something you're considering, I highly recommend you reach out, ask any additional questions. Rachel will get back to you, and reach out to our team as well at learn@uvm.edu if you have additional questions. And we'll share this recording and we'll share more information about the amazing farmer training program as a follow-up. So thank you everybody for being with us tonight. Rosie, thank you so much for taking time out of your vacation. Go back to vacation, and Rachel, thank you so much. It was great to see you. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.